All right, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Introduction to Azure DevOps. This is very much an introduction, but it's also very much going to be a demo-heavy, about an hour and a half that we're going to spend together this morning. So if you have an instance of Azure DevOps, feel free to open it up and follow along. We're going to be doing quite a bit of demos, and I'm going to talk about how you can get that here in a second as well. My name is Andrew Conniff. You can contact me through the stuff you see on the page here, either at my email, aconniff@upstability.com, or you can come back and find this LinkedIn link here and contact me through LinkedIn. I put a couple of my badges up there. I do have the DevOps expert badge. It's a good exam to take, the AZ400, if you're definitely interested in this space. And let's get right into what we're going to do today. So we're not going to have a lot of slides. Like this is it. We have like one more slide, which is like the question slide when we're done. But I do also welcome questions as we go through. We are expecting a full course today, a full class of about 50 folks. So normally we would go through if it was a smaller group and talk about where we are in the world and how we're all social distancing and whatnot. But since we're going to have so many people coming, I'm kind of burning a little time here to allow people to get in. Feel free to ask questions and chime in. I'll probably say that a few more times as more folks join. So today we're going to talk about how to get a DevOps instance set up on your Azure account, how to get an Azure account if you don't have one. That'll be very quick in the beginning. And then we're just going to go through we're literally going to go step by step through how to set up your organization or where the controls are for setting up your organization, and show the options, because there's so many different ways that you can configure DevOps organizations to work for you. And then we're going to go inside of a project and we're going to look at the Azure boards. We're going to look at the repos, the pipelines, test plans, artifacts. And along the way, we'll have questions, and then we'll do a wrap up at the end, and we'll talk a little bit about how we can get more resources to you. All right, so without further ado, let's not go to wrap up because we're not there yet. First thing I want to show is this is for the very, very, very beginning, folks. If you've never seen Azure before, I didn't take a poll, like I said, because we have a full class today. But if you go to azure.microsoft.com, we should come in to your language. I'm not sure how I got this link. You basically go start for free to set up an account. Once you set up an account, you can then go to this URL here, which is dev.azure.com. And I'm already logged in this browser, so it went ahead and logged me into all of my organizations. What you'll see if you have no organizations, it's going to ask you to create one. The screen is going to look like this. So we'll walk you through what this looks like here too. So let's see. It's just giving me a random name. I'm going to put test org, so I remember to delete it. And where am I going to? Oh, test org. Of course that's taken. Give it some random numbers at the end. I'm on the West Coast myself, so I'll do. Looks like my best option is going to be Central US, and then I'll click continue, and I'll give it a second to do its magic. Then it wants me to create a project, so I've got this test org AC222, and I can create a public or private project. I'll go public. If you're just playing around, this public should be fine. It's going to give you a little more horsepower without having to pay for anything. And we'll call this project 1. I know, super descriptive project name. All right, so this is a completely empty organization and a completely empty project. So this is probably a good one to go through. Let's see, good morning. I've got some folks coming on, typing in the chat. That's very nice. Good morning, everybody. Again, if you've just joined us, feel free to pop in with questions over the microphone. I'm going to be watching the screen a lot, so I might not catch if you do the hand raising part. But this is meant to be interactive, and we'll take it away from there. So again, we are in a completely blank project in a brand new organization, if I can click that organization name, it takes me all the way back up to my organizational level. And this is where you're going to start for a lot of things. So I have four more organizations than the one we're showing on here. I've got some things that I've put in here. It's essentially everything that I belong to on this alias that I'm logged in with. And then I have other directories. So here's my account under Acon Agility. I've been added to other accounts on different directories that I could switch to. Those are not running to share, but I do have them on there. So test org is the one that we're in. And once I'm there, I can go to my organizational settings. And that's where we're going to start today, is at the very top level of our walkthrough. All right, so I didn't set a whole lot up on this project, and we can actually go through and delete it and create a new one. But let's go through organizational settings first. So the little, go back. I'm on my test org here. So these little mechanical wheels here, you're going to find them around throughout the user interface, and they're going to take you into these menus that allow you to get to the configurations of where you are. So we're in the organizational menu now, and we open that up, and it drops us straight into our overview. And this tells us all about our, here's our URL for our project or our organization. We can add our privacy information in there and a description. We can pick our time zone, all of the nice things. Let's go ahead and do that actually. We'll leave it there. And then if I want to delete this organization, I can. It's very similar to Azure, where if I click delete, it's going to want me to type in the organizational name, and then it'll go ahead and delete it for us. So this is all of our basic information. And we'll go now to our projects. So we're going to come back to this one as well. Actually, we could jump around a little bit because it's very easy to navigate. We have our single project here, but what I want to show you here is, here's one that has more projects. So again, I went into a different project called Aconif. I've got a bunch of test and dummy projects in here. Go back into organizational settings, and then go back to projects. And here you can see I've got a bunch more in. And I want to show this filtering feature because it's very fast. So if I do tail, looking for Tailspin Toys or Tailspin Toys 2, you can see how quick this filters for me. Got 2 demo projects in there. What else do I have? All right, I've got Parts Unlimited. Very nice. We can just continue on this one. We don't need to move around. So it's very easy to filter through your projects, and when you work at a company that has a lot of projects underneath your organizations, that becomes very helpful to getting around. All right, next then we have is our users. And again, we're on the organizational level. So here is where I'm going to go to add users. So if I'm in a particular project and I want to add a coworker, let's say in this case, and I want to make them either a stakeholder, or I can give them basic access, and I can add them to projects, I can do that. So I could just type in someone in my organization. I'll put Hogue. I'll add as a basic user, and then I'm going to add, let's see, we'll add him to demo, and I can pick the projects that I want to add him to. So now when I send this out, Scott will get an email. It'll say you've been added to an organization and a project, and Scott will only have access. He'll be able to get to this organizational level, but when he goes to projects, he'll only have access to the one that I added him to. So here you can see all of your users, and then you can set up rules. Again, the filtering is going to work the same. You have a couple letters in, you can filter out who people are. So if someone's asking for access, you can check to see if they have them. So if you want to add a new group rule, you can create a new Azure DevOps group, and then you can assign people to it. So let's see, we can select from existing groups, or we can, see if we've got admin agents, and these are some groups here that I don't necessarily want to be adding on here, but you can add the groups, then you can add people, and then you can add those projects to the groups, and then you can create rules around those groups here and then that'll control their access to what things that they can do. So you can make them like read-only users and whatnot on there as well. So this is your user portal. To add someone to a project, you have to add them to the org first. So you want to come back up to the top level. That's a good thing to know. And now this is a free, so everything I'm doing is in the free tier, right? So it's basically the what you get out of the box. You get the free 1800 minutes. You get the self-hosted users. You've got basic users you can add. So this isn't going to work for a larger organization, but it works great for running demos, or if you have some of your own personal code, which is the organization that we're looking at here. And then you can also do parallel jobs. We'll talk about that when we get down into the parallel jobs here. And that's where you get into the cost. And so parallel jobs are if you have 70 developers and at any one time you maybe have 10 trying to run builds and pipeline items, you're going to need to, or you're going to probably want to increase your number of parallel jobs so that your build pipelines and stuff like that don't sit in the queue for a very long time. And that's right here. You can just do the setup billing, and then you can load in subscriptions and add up your billing there. We're not going to do that because we want to keep this one free. And now auditing is actually a preview feature. So before I get too far, we're down on auditing on this table here, but let's go across what we have on the top, right? So we have our breadcrumbs, we have our DevOps. This takes us back to the root of all of our organizations if I click there, or I can go to settings or auditing, or back to the root of my org that we're in. Over here, I've got my account information where I can view my account and switch directories. I've got this little button here, which is the user settings. And this is where I would go to turn on preview features. So by default, auditing is just going to be an empty screen with a nice little graphic there that says, hey, this is, you don't have anything here. If I go into this, sorry, that was the wrong button. I go into preview features. I can turn features on just for me, or I can turn them on for the organization. Now, I can only turn them on for the organization if I am an admin. So I've gone through, and here's like we have the analytical views. We've got new account manager, the board. So you basically go through and turn everything off. So there's a new repos pull request experience. I've left that one off. In a little while, what we'll do is we'll go through and we'll potentially do a pull request, and then we could turn that on and see what that looks like. But it just, in general, it's a little bit more of a rewrite of where the information shows from. So that's one to show that. And then you've got your marketplace and extensions. If you browse the marketplace, it's going to take us away. All of these items here are things that we can add to our Azure DevOps instance. A lot of them are free. Almost all the plugins are free, but then you have to go sign up for a trial for some of these. So this time tracker, you get a free trial. The extension is obviously free to add. That's just the plugin. It's just the adapter code that allows it to work with it. But some of them are completely free, and it can be helpful. So you want to be able to know how to get there. And then if we manage our extensions, we'll see the ones that are already installed. So I have this Azure RM deployment installed, and I've got code search, which allows me to flexibly and accurately search across all my code. And then I've got these delivery plans, which we're going to see when we get inside there. And then this Gantt chart, I believe, was a free trial. I don't think I can use that anymore. So I added that one on there. So that's how we manage our extensions. And then this button over here is going to be, work items, some pull requests, and some things that I've done in there that you can just sort of quickly go through here. And then you can search. If I do, let's see, I click the search the organization, I'm in the organizational search. So I did parts for parts unlimited, and it's going to show me all kinds of code and whatnot, anything that's underneath there as far as parts is on there. So now we've covered this top board. I'm going to go back to the root of the organization, which shows us all of our projects again. And I'm going to go inside our settings where we were. So I feel like I haven't left anything out because I don't want to leave these extra buttons that are over here out, and we'll touch on them a little bit more as we go through. So we had just got done building and we got into auditing. And so here we can see we access the audit log. This is for the first time. And then we just have these items that are on here. We can turn filters on for the days, and we basically can get these logs, and then we can export these logs to JSON or to CSV. Let's see what that looks like. If I do, I'll just find a place to save it and then pull it up here. I'll show in folder. And this is going to open in code for me. Yay. Not very well formatted, but readable for from a computer screen. So if we had a program that was going to accept that JSON, it'd be fine. If we wanted to read it, we'd have to format it ourselves. And then CSV is going to be a similar thing. We have to open it like in Excel. So that's auditing. It is in preview. You can be able to use that to get some logs out and keep some trace going on. So global notifications, these are going to be our any sort of notification that's going to be set up that you would normally get like through your email if you're the one that's doing it. So an extension has been modified. This stuff doesn't come to me on my email, but if I do a build or whatnot, like build complete, a lot of times I'll get this in my email if I have no one that's done it. You can go in and set those up. You can subscribe. So there's me, and then I can get statistics. So there's like 2 work items, and this is all under me. This project has a bunch of stuff by other people in it. And then so default delivery option for groups in this project. And so I can set that to the individual members, or I can turn that off to not deliver anything. So that's global notifications, and this is our default settings. But you can come in here to see what's happening on your organization. So here we have our usage, and you can see that took a little while to come up. There's a little bit more information in here than some of the other tabs. We can, again, this is filtered on me. If we open this up, yeah, so we get a bunch of information here too. And again, we can filter on me. We can do all statuses, or we can do normal. We can filter on keywords. So if I wanted to filter on, this is going to give me everything. I just do graph, click enter, and now we see this graph profile. We filter down on just the keywords that we've looked for, and then we can save queries and do all kinds of things. We can also go to column options, and we can see all the different things that are on here. We can also open this filter items again, just to show the filters or hide them, depending on what kind of look you want to have when you're going in there. We can also get to our extensions right here on the main menu, so we don't have to go over here to manage things. And again, this has ones that we've installed, and then I have none that are requested that I don't want to get. I just installed all the ones I wanted. And that's pretty much it. We've seen the screen. We navigated to it from a different way. And then we have our Active Directory. So I've created I came in through my Opsgility email. My Opsgility email has my accounts and my subscriptions. And then I've created my Azure DevOps instances for my organizations off of that. And these are all connected to my Opsgility. So I could switch directories, or I could disconnect this directory. If I switch, it's going to give me a list of all the ones that I can go into. So I don't want to move out of this yet, but I've got a couple of other directories in there and a couple more organizations I can go to. So you can see how you can logically separate people in terms of organizations, but also through adding users and giving them permissions only to certain projects, you can allow them inside of your organization where they can see all the other projects, but they only have access to the ones that they're working on. So if you had like a top secret project, you could just simply put that in a new org and then only invite the people into that org, and only they would see that at that top level. So you can use it as a logic container for your projects. So, and we're going to cover this a little bit later, but Azure DevOps is a very agile, growing product. So we're going to see some things that you may notice some things are missing if you're an active user, and you may see some things changing over time. If you're an active user, you're probably already familiar with how many changes are coming. So again, here you'll get these little warnings. Like right now, they're no longer going to support alternate credential authentication as of March 2nd, 2020. So that's in the past. That should have already happened. And so anyway, now that we're in our policies, we can, this alternate connection policies, this is an older project, so it's probably not, if I turn it off, I can still turn it back on. So if I create a new organization, it's probably not going to be there. But we also have security, so we can allow public projects, or we can turn that off. So if I allow you, if I create this and I add people as administrators, I can turn this to off, and then only, I'm not going to change it, only private projects can be created inside of there, and no one can accidentally create a public one and then start dumping a bunch of IP in there. And then you can also enable some policies. We have this external guest access. If you turn that off, then you can't have folks from different organizations be added to the org into projects. We have that on. And then you have this request access URL. And that is a URL that you can give to people where they can say, hey, I need to get in to this this organization or this policy or project. This is where a lot of our work is going to be done in terms of setting the permissions on the different groups. So if I am on like the security service group and I want them to only have access to a certain number of things, I can go in here and allow them to do or not do certain things like alter trace settings, create new projects. So maybe this security service group, they don't need to create new projects. They also don't need to be able to delete new projects, that sort of thing. So can they make a request on behalf of others? We can allow that. Can they trigger events? Maybe they do need to do that. We don't really, depending on what you want them to do. So again, you can create these groups, add people to your organizations, add them to specific groups that fit their role in your organization, and they'll have that limited level of access to your projects. And you can go in here and set all of those together. You go to the members here. Here we've got a couple of groups that are already on there, project collection build, so I'm already on there. Oops, we went down a rabbit hole. Let's go backwards. All right, so now we're back to the beginning. And then same thing here with users. We've got Scott, who I just added. We've got some defaults. And if we go in here, I've got all of my allows. And so this one's not set. So right now I can delete team projects. But I mean, if I add you to my organization and you create a project, I probably can't just go in and willy-nilly delete it. Although that's not set. So, and then I can have all this inherited stuff because I created everything. So a lot of those are already set. If I go back into Scott's, go to users, we just added Scott. We can lock him down so we can't do anything. And we can allow to alter trace settings, but not delete. You can create projects, but can't delete them. And you can edit. Let's say no, and then yes. So what this is edit instance level information. No, you can't edit it, but yes, you can view it and all of that. So you can go through and save all that stuff. But basically, there's no like save button, and you can see it's automatically saving as I go, which makes it much quicker to go through. And then we can say number of contributors. We can do all of that. So in your permission setting is where you're going to be able to really go in and lock everything down so that the people that you want to have access to the things they need to work on can have access, but they can't go in and do anything else. It makes things a lot easier for security reasons, and also to hunt things down if things change. If you only have a handful of people that can edit it, then you kind of know where to start your investigations as to what happened. All right, so here we've got our processes. So we're at the organizational level. Organizational set as agile. And what this does is it tells you what your team projects, what they are, right? So we have this ACON project, set to 1. And these are the basic, like default, we have 4 team projects in here set to basic. And then you have the CMMI, so that's for more formal projects. Scrum for teams who follow the Scrum framework, so we have 1 set up there. And this one's Parts Unlimited, which is generated by this Azure DevOps Demo Center. So because we brought that in, that's obviously it's a Microsoft thing. And if I click here, it'll tell me my projects. These are all the ones that are set up on that basic level. Just get back there. and that's the default, and that's a pretty good one to work in there. So you do have this sort of bird's eye view into what's going on. And again, feel free to jump in with questions as we're going through here. And also feel free to follow along. All right, so in our agent pools, we can see what agent pools that we have on here. So this is going to be, let that load up. Here's all the pipelines we have. Here's the agents that we have that are on there. We have hosted agents, Azure pipelines. We can get the details on here. So there's our Visual Studio Team Services. Nothing that's on there. And then we have our user permissions for the valid users that are on here. So you can go into these pipelines and work on the changes. These are the jobs. Let's go back out to the pools. So you have all the built-in Azure pipelines. So you can go in, and when we create pipelines, we're going to look at the hosted agents and everything that's in there. If you need to, and you can, if you didn't know this, run your own custom hosting agent, like on a VM, you can do that by adding software to your virtual machine and doing the setup connector. It's actually fairly straightforward. And then that'll show up in the default here where you have, so there's no jobs running this agent pool, and we don't have any agents. So if we had created a custom agent, it's going to fall into this default pool. And then it'll be selectable. If we add it here, we can configure whether or not that agent pool is available on all of our projects or only some of our projects, etc. All right, so these are pipeline settings. So we can limit the variables that can be set at queue time if we want to do that. We click that. Then what will happen is that only the ones that are set to settable at queue time are settable at queue time. If we leave it off, every variable can be changed at queue time. We can limit the job authorization scope to a current project. And that basically, I'll just show this here, is how you find out all your clues on these. I'll try to hold still. There we go. So the pipelines can run with a collection of scoped access tokens unless this option is enabled. So you can lock down how things are run in the settings there. There's very few that are in here. You turn them on or off. They will require you to do other things to make them work. So again, if we limit this here, if we don't set our variables to be settable, then none of them will be. So that it requires another step down the road to be able to use that feature when you lock it down like that. All right, and deployment pools allow you to set up pools of deployments that all work together in tandem, and they can work on parallel jobs. You can set up these pools that you want them to all run at the same time. We don't have anything set up like that right now, but if we click on this, I can say, give me my pool a name, and then I can provision a corresponding deployment group into each of these projects if I wanted to, give it a name, and then save it. And then I would have some more configuration to do after that. Those are all disconnected projects, so we're not going to do that. And then connected to that are our parallel jobs. And this is where we can see, so we're on the free tier here, and then you can go in and you can purchase parallel jobs. And so this is sort of management in terms of how many are going to be available. Again, we've got the public projects.
Public projects.
Oh, there that go. And we have the self-hosted, have the unlimited. So self-hosted, again, that's where we run our own VM and we connect it through the default. We are then running that VM, so we are incurring all of that cost, and that's unlimited. And then we have some OAuth configurations here. We're going to go deep in that. We're going to see what happens with all the, it's not going to keep all. Give that a second. It might be failing because the alternate authorization stuff is. Let's just go. Let's move on from there. We'll come back. All right. So here we have our artifact usage. So here we've got. We're not creating a ton of artifacts in this project here. So manage our usage of packages stored in Azure artifact feeds, pipeline artifacts and symbols. We can see the pipeline usage. We can open that up and see what they're saying. It's just a doc. All right, so you'll find a lot of those tips throughout. Sometimes there's like a little pop-up window that will come in. But these are your pipeline artifacts, symbols that are generated, drops, and whatnot. It'll basically tell you what your storage usage is. And that's what we have here. So our extensions now, anything that we have loaded that is relevant to the operations, the organizational level, is going to be in that section at the bottom. All extensions, and as you can see, Again, I haven't paid for this one, so I did the free trial. Free trial's over. I would have to check out and go ahead and pay $10 a month for a single user to use the Gantt chart. If that's something that is required for part of your reporting, you can get that. I would also be more than willing to bet that inside of our projects, we'll start seeing some more useful tools show up. So this is our organizational setting. So this is everything outside of the project. The big things you're going to do is they're going to be divided up, like who is going to be doing your billing. You're going to get that all set up, get it locked down. And then the biggest thing is going to be users and policies on the organizational level. All right, so let's go back to our organization here, where we can see, we're back at the top level. We're out of this menu down here. And we can go into any one of these projects. And so now we've stepped into a project. And that brings us to the walkthrough of how we're probably going to use this on a day-to-day. So a lot of the stuff we just looked at is going to be setup stuff. Your project managers and whatnot are going to be handling that. They might be spinning up new orgs and new projects and whatnot from that level and working on the permissions. And a lot of developers and whatnot will then be granted access to specific projects. And this is sort of the view they're going to have when they get inside there. Okay. So the first thing you see is, this is sort of the welcome dashboard. There's the about on this project. We can, do the README file. We can add a wiki. There's like sample wiki content right there. We can add some tags, whatever we want to do. And this is the general description. So if we want to add more things like, and then we save it, you can see it keeps our formatting. So we added a little bit of space. So the about section, you can put a lot of good information in there for people that are first getting in, like, hey, this is what you need to know when you first get here. This project isn't really doing anything, so there aren't any stats. So there's no, this is the last 7 days, right? So if I do last 30, let's see if I've been playing around in this particular project. Nope, nothing going on last 7 days. So we'll go in and we'll run some things on here, and then this view will change. All right, so now our dashboards do have some information. And so first off, we can see this is our Parts Unlimited overview. We can go in here and show team profiles, but let's just go through what we have on this page. So we have this, like, welcome, here's the managed work. These are all links. We can look at our automated builds, we can visualize our progress and learn how to add charts. Oh, I clicked on the link, that's going to take us to a doc. Apologize for that. We should be able to click, oh, that's still taking us to a link. Very well. We'll go into the edit and we'll show how to add those things. So here's our user stories again. We can expand this view. We can take more actions, which is we can configure this, we can delete it. And these are like widgets. If you're familiar with Azure, this is a lot like the Azure dashboard. It's a little more in-depth than some of these, since it's all right here. And then we have the work that's assigned to me. These are some items. We'll get into where those come. And if you hit one of these here, it's just going to expand this out so we get a better view. So, and then we can view the query that's based on. And this basically puts us in here. So now I can run different queries and I can change different things. Go back to our overview dashboard. All right, so here's our, like, we have user stories assigned and then we have them in their states. So this is sort of a nice bird's eye view. You can pop into your dashboard. Now, the cool thing is we can refresh this to get the more current data if things are actively happening. We have the little sprocket, which has the settings for our overview. So we can put some more information in there if we want. We can make this full screen so it's a little bit better of a view. Gets rid of the menu on the left. We can go back. So we're looking at this there. And then we have the edit button. So again, we didn't have anything scrollable here, but if we wanted to add burn down, we can add a burn down over here. Let's see, we probably need to configure that. And we can set the width and height there, and we can do backlog items, bugs, etc., and set the dates for what we want them to be. That's the start date, my bad. Oh, the end date's already set. So if we go iteration, days, let's close that. So there's our burn down. There's really nothing on there that sets the burn down, so it's a flat line. But if you have your structure that's on there, you can do it. So now it's grayed out, but we can say done edit. Well, let's see here. What else do we want to do? Let's add a chart for test plans. Configure the widget with test plans, test cases, results. It's a pie chart. And then we can select the kind that we want. Stack bar. Yeah, let's just do pie chart. It's easier. Leave it the way it is. Count, test cases, descending. We didn't really change anything, so close it, see what happens when we save done editing. Yeah, we don't have it plugged in correctly. So you can add some things. Obviously, people that are most used to the different types of charts are going to work in there. But again, you can see you can scroll through, have everything, put the things on top that you want to show, like maybe during the beginning of your Scrum meetings, and then the things that you just maybe want to show where it's just like the management team can be either up on top or down below, whatever you want to. And here's our analytics views. So this is in preview, and then you're going to want to look at the how do I view this. Let's just see what happens if we click new view. Let's just say test view. And then we can share this to all of everyone in the project. Sure, that's fine. Work items filtered by teams. Sure, fields. Let's see what happens when we do this. So the preview items, they're kind of is ready to use with Power BI. Estimated rows 159. So there's a data connector for Power BI. We'll save it, and then what we'll have to do is we'll have to go in and configure this. Essentially, what this is going to do is pipe our information out to Power BI. If you have a Power BI account and you're familiar with that, you can then create dashboards. You can embed them in websites. So if you wanted to take your analytics out of your DevOps and create a dashboard for your management team that doesn't, where they can just look at it every day and they don't have to go into DevOps and see your dashboards that are for your daily users, you can select the things that you want to get in there, go into Power BI, do all your filtering and all that stuff, and keep it separate. Again, it's in preview, so you're going to get results are going to improve as you work with it over time. So here we've got our wiki. So I moved off of analytics views down into wiki. I can go into my key features, and here's some stuff that's been ported over. We've got to get started, development, and you can go in here and edit the items. So this right here, like it doesn't have to be that kind of content. It can be type. I am adding content in plain text here. So I'm not entirely sure why they're dropping these in, but this is probably snippets they want people to be able to grab. But if I wanted to, set this up, you can see it's, markdown should work. So if I do here and here, I don't want to do italics, this should be single. Let's like underline, check that out. Oh, it's that one. So you can should also be able to do, yeah, so those are both italics. So this is definitely a markdown. And if you have a lot of markdown script, a lot of things that you're keeping in like GitHub, you can copy that over here into your wiki, the ones that you want, and they're going to show up formatted correctly as you want to have it. So we'll go ahead and save it. And if we go back to our wiki, and we're here, we can go move page, edit, open up. We can add a sub page right there. Let's say our sub page. I know the naming is like super extravagant. And if we do something like this, You can see if you're familiar with Markdown, you can set your set all of your sub headings. This would be like a heading too, right? And you can see your documents then have some nice formatting. You can just type it in the way you normally would if you're familiar with Markdown. You can go ahead and save that. And go back to our wiki page. And we have our new wiki subpage here. We can open it up. And it's got all of our information here. And that stuff, you see how I clicked on that? It added this link here. So the cool thing about this is if I want to share this, if I've got a long demo page, here I've got this heading too, right? These are the anchor tags are automatically created for you. If there's a part that you need to share amongst developers, to new people on the team, and say, here's the instructions on this page, you can keep your instructions nice and inline. You don't have to create separate wiki subpages, which are harder to read if you're going through it from start to finish. But if you only need to access that one section, you can literally send this link to your coworker. They can click it. It's going to take them right to that heading, and they'll be able to read it. They don't want to scroll around and find it. So that's very nice to feature there. So Wiki, I've seen a lot of really good uses for that when it comes to projects that have moving parts and a lot of different people on them. All right, so that's sort of the overhead overview control stuff that features that we have. And now we're going to get into how the teams operate together. So again, I'm just going to remind everyone, if you have a question, go ahead and pop up on the speaker. You can also type it in, but I might not see it as I'm focused on the demo here. The board section is going to have all of our work items in the way that, and this is where we structure out the work that's going to be done. So we have, let's go into a new work item and see here. So this project is set up to have all of these different types of work items available to us. When you set up different projects, you can set them up to say, you know what, I don't want epics because we're not doing epics. We're just doing, product backlog items. And you see in here, you're going to have user stories on here. We could set that up to have user stories and whatnot. So in this particular configuration, we've got bugs, epics, features that we want to add, impediments. That's, add in something that's, a blocker kind of thing. Product backlog item, task, and then we have the test cases. And we'll talk about how test cases work in the test plans, because we're going to go down the list and we'll get to those in a little bit. But if we wanted to create a new work item, we can create a new task. And sample task. It's a to-do. Let's go ahead and assign it to me. I can add a tag here if I want. And this could be something like, you can use this in any way you want. So some people will do they'll add something like block. So you can also search by blocked items. So if, let's say I'm in this sample task, I go to work on it and I find out that there's a feature that's blocked. I put in my comments. This is the description of what I'm supposed to do. Let's see, description. And I would say a common usage is acceptance criteria. Okay, so that's for your developer. And the reason why you put that in there is maybe that developer is out sick, someone else picks it up and they weren't on the Scrum and they have no idea what they're supposed to do. And then you can keep the communication open here. I completed. I put in here that I'm blocked and I can put in my reasons. And I can say, let's say this is for Scott. Oh, he's not on this project. I can search. Yep, I can add him. And then what'll happen is Scott's going to get an email. He's working on something else today, so he'll be really happy to get an email from me that says, hey, I'm blocked in this sample task. And I'll have to explain to him later why I'm doing this. So it's that easy, right? So I can just, it's already, I'm saved. I've got the thing. I've got a comment in here. But now I've got this iteration right here, and I've got this area that I'm in. So I'm in Parts Unlimited. That's where I want to be. But this task I've added to sprint 1 and we're on sprint 6. So I can go ahead and change that right here. And now this, and save it. This work item has now been added to sprint 6. And that's going to become important here in a minute. So we have our work items. We have our various ways of creating them. We can open up queries. We can also filter here. So I can, filter on, I want to show my filters. And I want to do assign to. So if I do assign to me, quite a few, they'll show up. But again, this view is not necessarily super helpful. But we can, as we query, we can lower the items and then we can drill into whatever it is we want to do. Another view is the boards view. I'll show what that looks like. So here we've got bugs. We've got these items here. Again, these are our larger work items. If we go back here, what are these called? These are called product backlog items. So in our boards, we've got backlog items, bugs, and we don't see tasks in here, right? So we have our bugs and backlog items, and we can also switch back and forth to this backlog, and then we can look at our analytics here. And no work is being done on this, so there is no velocity, and there's that's probably not going to be interesting either. To move these around, though, we can move them from doing to done. We can do the same thing with these product backlog items. And here we've got design and dev test. So this is divided into two pieces. So this is our two different flows on the same root project level. And as you can see, our drag and drop is very easy. And then once this whole item is done, we can move the whole thing over to done. Now, if we create a new item, we can see we only have these two choices, product backlog item or bug. One of the reasons we're seeing this view is because we're outside of a sprint. So this is sort of this is the tracking view of overall on the project, like more of a bird's eye view. So there's boards, there's backlogs. Those are the two main views for those items there. Again, we have bugs, backlog items. So now to see that task that we created, we go into sprints and we're in sprint 6. And you can see here's our sample task right here. It's assigned to me, it's under to do, and it's marked as blocked. So this is the view that we get from our board. And I can say, once it's unblocked, I can open this up and I can remove my tag and I can say, work is started, save and close. I can also move it from inside of there. So I can drag it here to in progress. Or I can open this up and I can set it here to in progress. And then you see that it's moved. So depending on what your flow is, if you're inside there and you're just positioning your work items, sometimes the Scrum Master or the project manager will be in there doing all of that work. And they'll just do it whatever way is easier. They'll either drag and drop or they'll go inside there and they'll add notes and then move to in progress or done. So that is this is the view that as a developer, if you're a developer, this is probably the one you're going to see the most. This work rapidly moves from to do to into progress and done because it depends on how long your sprint is. If you go into sprints at the top level, we can see we've got our team sprints here. It just brings us into there. And then we've got all of our different items. We'll create a new sprint here in a second. And then here's our options. So we can look at the people, we can look at backlog items, we can look at some of the planning here. And so here's where we see our dates, which these are no longer valid. It's still marked as current, etc. If we want to create a new sprint, we come in, we can set our dates from March, April to today. And there's a 1-week sprint. It's Parts Unlimited. The name of it is Sprint 7. Wow, there we go. and we can save it. So now we have a sprint 7, and there should be nothing in there. We go to it. There's no work items in here. So again, what'll happen is if we're in our sprints, let me go back into 6, let's say, and we're dispositioning things. Come on, sprints. I'm in 7, that's why there's nothing there. Go to 6. There we go. We go to our task board, and as we're going through our items, let's say we are here, and we have all these to-dos, we can go in and say, you know what, this isn't going to get done. Let's move to sprint 7. This isn't going to get done. Let's move to sprint 7. So this is a very common workflow, right? Hey, we ran out of time. And now if we go to sprint 7, you can see that's our current sprint, and there's all of our items that needed to be got punted into 7, and they're ready to be started now. Everything else could be into 6. So you can see how you can control your flow there. So we talked a little bit about queries. So here we have like user stories. This is one that's already in there, but if I go back to the queries, at the top level, I can do new query. And I could say, I want a work item type that equals bug, and I want the state to be equal to any. Sure, that works for me. You can save the query. We're going to give it a name. We'll call it bug query. All right, so if we go into queries, we have this bug query that I updated just now. If I run it, I get those bugs right there. So you can see, without going too deep into this, how powerful this is in terms of setting up a lot of predefined queries so that you can jump from one view to another in terms of what's happening. And then you can have an itinerary for your meetings where you just go down each of those queries, and you can do your delta from the last time you had a meeting to the new meeting and see what's happening and where it's moving. And that's essentially what you've got. You can we can go much deeper into all of that, but you can do all the things you would expect. You can do custom columns. You can copy the query URL and share it around. You can email it, and there's the results right there. I can send it to users. So this is also, we talk a little bit about the people that are in DevOps, the people that are outside of DevOps. So there's people in your organization that don't want to go in here every day, but they want to see maybe a Power BI, or they want to see like reports on something, especially if things are becoming critical, and they have to report that to the client, let's say. Like I have a burn down, I have a bug list, and here's my updated bug list. And then the Scrum Master or project manager can send those emails and update them right from inside of the Scrum meetings. All right, so the plans. We haven't created any plans. Let's create a plan. All right, so it's parts unlimited, and we're going to set this to backlog items. It's just the one team, and we're going to create it. So this is like I said, when we talked about different views that you can get, this is an extension, I do believe. Let's see where the other one is. Yeah, that's one of our extensions. So this will give us, sorry, let's go back into plans. This will give us that view. So we have the sprint 7 view, we've got backlog items, we have a link right in here. So how you use this is going to be up to you in terms of the items that you want. So we can add product items, bugs, sprint 7, but we can see the dates. So if I have upcoming sprints, I can have them all lined up. I can see all of my work log items that are going to be in there. And I can say, all right, what am I doing here? Sprint 7 bug, test bug, right? Let's see. And it's saving that. And so I can go through and I can add out a lot of work. So if I had user stories, let's say, I could go through and plan out 4 or 5 sprints all the way out into June with a list of items that are in there. I should be able to go back to see how well this integrates. I go back to sprint 7. There's like our dive in view sprints. And it shows a new bug's been added, unassigned test bug. Okay, so we can add them right from our plans. Okay, and this is only showing, let's see here. Yeah, product backlog items and bugs. So it's the same as this view here, the boards and backlogs. All right, so that's plans. Again, you can expect this to become, and you can go out and in, and then set your configuring and then do some filtering. Again, this is much more of a organizational tool that allows you this sort of larger, like 40,000 foot level, what's happening, a month or 2 months down the road. Whereas you go into boards, and this is a list of everything. There's no dates on it. Sprints is broken up into small chunks of smaller dates. Plans are going to be your big long plans, and then queries are going to be where you want to define things based on what they are, regardless of where they fall in plans or backlogs or boards, or between plans and sprints, let's say. All right, so that's organization. We've done overview, organization, and now we're going to talk about our code in the DevOps. So here, we keep our code in DevOps repos. You can keep your code in DevOps repos. You can use all of these features and keep your code in GitHub, but that's a little bit of a different story. We're going to cover how we are going to do it in Azure DevOps right now. Before I go on, does anyone have any questions up to this point? All right. We can go backwards into the organizational stuff if we want to, but from here on out, we're going to be talking mostly about things that have to do with code. So here we've got this very nicely named Parts Unlimited ASP Net 4.5. So we know a lot about our project based on the naming. That's kind of nice. So if you're familiar with these types of projects, you can see what we have in here. We've got a README. It's going to show up in preview. We have a unit test.
Hi, before
Yes.
we go any further, sorry. This is Joel. So I don't know, I failed to see. So this is for, okay, great, for the cloud, you can deploy your CI/CD if you set it up. But what about on premise? Do you have to do, I know that you have to do something, but what do you have to do in order to, for example, you want CI/CD on your application server that is on premise where you deploy X files, right, over to those two servers, for example. What do you have to set up on your Azure DevOps in order to support that on-premise servers?
So that's going to be part of our pipelines, right?
Okay.
So you can, if you're storing your code here, when you get to the pipeline section, it's going to be your release targets. So a lot of it is set up to release to Azure. So when we get there, pipe up again and remind me. I'll make a note right now.
Okay, no problem. Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to take a second here and type out that note so I don't forget. Okay, I made a note. So, and we will get to that point, and then I may have to, we'll have to find some resources on that as much, because I am doing this on a sort of a cloud-focused thing, but you can definitely deploy using pipelines to VMs that you have. And you can actually use your own VMs in the build pipelines too.
Hi there, sorry to interrupt. I have a couple of questions here. This is regarding the public project. Is it possible to share the public project to someone at the moment? Like, I can understand that we can create a public project using Azure DevOps, but if I want to see the public projects created by others, where do I go about?
Well, that's going to be, so that there's a naming convention, right? So it's dev.azure.com, and then you would have to know. So someone can share it with you, and then you could go and see it. If you haven't been added to the project, you're not going to be able to do anything with it. It's just public. You'll be able to see the repo and the code and whatnot. I believe this one is public.
And so you need a login credential for that, right? To sign into the project itself.
Correct. Yep. Okay. Otherwise, you can see it. Like, you'll be able to go to the page. If it's a private project, you won't be able to get in. If I try to send you to the code, you might be able to see the repo and stuff like that. Um, You can try that one. I think this one's public. It might be private, but
Right.
if you go there and it says you can't log in, then you can't. But you should be able to see like the code and stuff. You just shouldn't be able to do anything with the project.
If
like
it is
Okay.
a private, if it is a private project, you can be invited into that project to be able to give them permission, but you will not be able to see any of the full private projects unless you are part of that group as part of the role-based access controls.
Correct. Yep. Yep. And we covered that at the very beginning, and we can circle back again on that too. So, while we're here, there are some questions that came across. We've got the using tags will help with cost and billing. That could be. It really depends on how you structure things. Like you may want to, yeah, because you can query on that tags as well. So if you're doing a subset of work inside of a project that's maybe built on a different SAO or something, you can tag it with that.
Yeah.
Again, you may want to set up other ways of delineating it, but that'll help with that.
No, thank you for answering that question. It was a general question we had in our company because anything we do in Azure, whether Azure DevOps, they wanted to make sure that the costing model could be matched against tags and filters.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So and it works that way definitely in Azure too. So you can use like a coordinated tagging where when you roll up your billing in Azure for this cloud spend, you can get that amount, but then you can also track your burn down and your hours worked on items for billing purposes if you're billing for your developers as well.
And I appreciate that, but for the rest of the audience, you can also, so I dug a little further into my question. You can also set that up for forecasting your burn down, and take a look at what you potentially might be getting from your projects, and you can set quotas against those tags to prevent, any costs going over, or at least be alerted to it. Thank you.
You are welcome, and thanks for contributing. I would definitely appreciate that. Any other questions before we get moving into code?
I've got another one, which is related to automating the creation of the project itself. I work on Azure DevOps on a daily basis. I often create projects and add users to it. It's kind of overwhelming at the moment. Like I have to create a lot of projects, and I'm thinking of automating it. Is there any options available to automate the whole project and then create new users and then add it to different groups and roles, so that have the respective authorization to access certain stuff?
So the short answer is yes.
Yeah, if you could point me in the right direction of any notes or any Microsoft Docs available, then that'd be great. Yeah.
There's actually a tool. I don't really know who runs it, so it's kind of spotty. But I will find that here in a second, and actually was going to potentially share that out, but it's one of those. It's not really part of the project. But what you can do with it, let's see here. I've got this in my notes. I'll describe it while I actually look for it. I have a link to it here somewhere. In there, someone created a web portal. It's got links to DevOps. So when you log in, it'll link into your organization. And if you'll look back at projects under Aconf here, you'll see, let's see, generated by DevOps demo generator. So the demo generator is actually, you can use it in another way. And how I got this part's unlimited, and it came in with sprints, it came in with security settings all on it. So especially if you're creating a lot of the same project over and over again, it's a way to duplicate a project or project setting. So you can basically create a root project that has groups, users added, and all of the security that's on there. And then you can save that as a zip file, and then essentially hydrate new projects into Azure DevOps basically by going to this tool. and using it. So what I'm looking for is, I think what we might do here, nope, I'm in the wrong place. So if you guys will pardon me 1 second, I'll be able to go ahead and do this. I'm on a different window in case you guys are wondering what I'm doing. DevOps. Sorry, this popped up on the window we were looking at. This one's already been hydrated. Might be able to find it on Google here.
Is this the Azure DevOps demo generator that you're referring to?
Yeah, is that the link right there?
I just posted it.
That should be the one. Let's try logging in and see what's in there. Sign in. And it should have me signed in under the same one. Yeah, so it starts you off with this smart hotel. And if you go, let's see, you're going to want to create a project name, but I'm going to select. So if I wanted to import something into Aconif, which is the one that we're in now, so it's got to be logged in as me, I'm going to give it a name. That's cool. Now I can import from one of the templates that's already on there. But what I can do here is build my own template. So I can select my organization. And I can select my project ID. Let's say we wanted to do the new project that I created that's empty. It's going to analyze this, and then I can save it as a zip file. So I'm not saving it for everyone in the cloud. I'm just saving it to my computer. I can generate the artifacts. And it's basically, because there's nothing in here. This will be a really fast one to do because we didn't really create anything. But it saves things like, is it a basic project? Is it a Scrum project? Who are your teams? What are the security? What are the policies? Note folder will be deleted from the server once you click the download button. So right here, I click download, and I will just put it in that same folder I was in before. And I'll show you what this looks like. So we'll do show in folder, and I'll just double click on it. So here's everything that's inside of here, right? So when I go back to use this page here, let's go to the home page. It just that opened in a new page. Okay, so if I want to choose a template here, I have the option of choosing a file, which I'm trying to navigate on my computer here to the same folder I was in a second ago. There we go. So then I can select this file here. So I've downloaded this one. It's on my machine. I can select it, and then I can submit that. Now I'll be creating this new project based off of this project here. Repository. Oh, I don't want that. So this tool is a little funky because you can see how when I moved around, it erased some of my stuff. So we don't always show this one because I'm not entirely sure who is upkeeping it and what its status is in terms of it, like maybe being in preview. And so sometimes you'll go to use it and it will not work. That could be either like a bad internet connection or maybe it's just not doing something right. So we should have a new project called new project. Oh, then we can navigate to our project. Here we are in Aconif. There's new project. It's based off the demo generator. You know, inside of here, we've got all the things that we didn't have before because it was just a new project. So if we go back now to the root, we have new project. It's based off of this project here. And you can see they're both generated by the Azure DevOps demo generator at one point or another. So that is how you would do it right there. You would basically create all of the root things that aren't like code and all of your rules, all of your organization stuff, maybe even the dashboards, the queries and things like that. And then you can copy the whole thing over. You can even actually keep the code in there if it's if you have one that you know you're going to duplicate, and then just have someone go in and delete all the code out. All right, so that's actually pretty super helpful. So thanks for that question. And we were in Unlimited. Go back into there. And we were in our repo. So inside of our repo, the repo itself gives us the files view from as default. And here, so there's several projects that are in here, so there's a lot of files and whatnot. A lot of times you're going to end up with a blank repo when you first start one out, and I'll show you that screen here in a minute, but let's go through this one because it probably has some information in here. So here's our commits, and you can follow your branching and all of the merges that have happened right here. And of course, you can see that we're in our repo. And we can also create another repo inside of this project. Some projects I've seen have 10 different repos because the project itself has 10 different iterations of the code. Here we have our pushes. We go through here and it gives us all the details on that. And you can dive down into there and see what happened. Here's the actual code that was on there. And it took us to the commit. Here's our branches. So here we can see we haven't been deleting our branches afterwards, but this is all the branches in the history here that have been happening. We can create a pull request from here. So if I'm on this branch here, I can set up a build, go back to branches, I can create a pull request, and then update home controller.cs, et cetera, et cetera. And that's where I can get in and, there's like a small little change on here. I can do a pull request again. But if you go to pull requests, we're going to leave. So this shows that we have 2 active pull requests right now. We can go to, or those are mine here. They're also active. And then we can look at the completed ones. And we can look at any that were abandoned and then go into the reasons why they may have been abandoned. Go to active. So added terms and conditions for the sale. We can go into this and we can check the files. I don't want to walk through. Thank you very much. And here they've added this link. And there's what it looks like on the full file. We can see updates. So there was 2 commits. And all of that. You can do all the things that you would normally look at. Do a pull request. You can browse the files. You can search. Do all of those things. And then do your approvals.
I have a question.
Yes.
Do you have any recommendation if we are not working with Visual Studio? For instance, I'm working with Power BI, and obviously it's not integrated with this as Visual Studio. So if I have to request a developer to use this thing, they have to come here and select the file with the upload tool that you have here. Do you have any recommendation for a client for this that is more user-friendly from the desktops?
I do not have a recommendation for that. I don't work with Power BI myself a whole lot. I've worked with the connectors that we talked about earlier in terms of getting like log information that comes out. So I'm not sure I'm understanding your question. Are they working on files that then create data or whatnot that gets into Power BI somehow?
The developers are working with Power BI, so they have the PBIX file in their desktops, right? The only way to use the repos and actually the pipelines associated is to upload the files individually from this web page. I want to know if you have any, obviously, if you're working in Visual Studio, you can commit from Visual Studio, and that is easier, right? So my question is, do you have any client recommendation to use the repos from the computer if they don't have Visual Studio?
Yes. So Visual Studio, there is integration, but a lot of developers are using Git. So they're using command line, or they're using like a Git desktop agent. And what that does is any type of file that you want to check in, if it's in the folder that has the Git file connected to it, that's actually a good time, since we're at the end of this, to show you a brand new one. It'll upload any file that you put in there. So let's go over to that new project we just created, because there'll be nothing in here. There should be nothing in here. When I go to my repos, oh, there's test stuff in here. This one was copied from something that had something in it. Anyway, let's go to simple enough. Let's create a new project. Didn't we already create one? We did. This is test GitHub. I didn't call it test GitHub. Let's see if there's anything in the repo. There is. Demo. When was this created? Today. Great. Great. Okay. So this is the one that has nothing in it. There's no files at all. So you can also clone one that has everything that's in there. But if you wanted to basically get something from my computer, I can get this clone in Visual Studio Code, or I can grab this. If you're not familiar with Git, I would basically recommend looking up Git. I can grab this, and I could go here. I can make a directory. And I'm going to cd into Azure test. And then I can do, because I have Git installed. And now I'm cloning into this demo, and I can do, okay, so I can cd into my demo. And there's nothing in here. Right now, if I had a PBX, they're called PBIX files. I don't have one on my computer, but I can grab anything else.